Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Legacy. Sorority secrets of the goddess next door are revealed in this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS Legacy in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere.
10 people were murdered and 3 were wounded in a tragic mass shooting that took place in Buffalo, New York at a Tops supermarket. And in this incident, 18-year-old Peyton S. Gedrin, a white male, is alleged to have driven over 200 miles from where he lived in upstate New York to Buffalo to go murder black people in this mass shooting. Now, the police are seeing this as yet another tragic mass shooting here in the United States, but when I take a critical examination of this incident, it not only fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, it also is an incident that shows us that we have race soldiers all across this country, and these race soldiers are looking to wage war on black people. Now, your Peyton S. Gedrin alleges that he became one of these race soldiers because he had listened to information on the internet during the COVID lockdowns. However, when I take a critical examination of your Peyton S. Gedrin, his behavior fits right in line with that pattern and profile I've seen for beta males who, during extended periods of time, what they do is they enter into what I call echo chambers, and inside of that echo chamber, they listen to all of this extremist and white supremacist information because they agree with that information. And as they are listening to this radical information that is presented online, they start believing that this information is the truth. And as they start believing that this information is the truth, they feel they have the justification to go out here and take the lives of whoever they believe is causing all of the problems they have been told about. Now, this type of indoctrination is just similar to what happens to many radical Islamic terrorists who live in America. Many of these individuals who used to listen to radical Islamic terrorist websites, what would happen to them is they would keep listening to this content, enter into an echo chamber where they would constantly be reading all of this information online, as I believe to be misinformation. And what happens is that individual becomes radicalized, and that's what happened here with your Peyton Gedrin. He probably had racist views against black Americans, even though he says in his manifesto he was never a racist. However, what happened is during these lockdowns, he was sitting there in that internet echo chamber, listening to all of this information, buying into all of this information that is online, which is basically anti-black propaganda. And as he imbibed all of this anti-black propaganda, he believed that black people were the enemy, and he believed that he had a justification to take the lives of who he thought were his enemies. This, again, is something that has been a major problem with the internet for an extended period of time. We have a lot of these guys out here on these websites like 4chan, sometimes on Reddit, even on places like Facebook, as part of these white supremacist Facebook groups. And these individuals sit there in these echo chambers listening to people like themselves saying the things that they want to hear, and listening to these people trying to make black people the scapegoat for all of the problems of the country, and believing that the country, America, is only for white people. And that's what your Peyton Gedrin allegedly believed. He believed that America was supposed to only be for white people after listening to all of this radical white supremacist rhetoric. And after listening to all of this white supremacist rhetoric, he sought to go out here and do something to so called fix America. This is something many beta males try to do because many of these beta males are, again, they are frustrated and angry, and what they want to do is make their world smooth. So they see black people as somebody who's making their world a problem, and they want to go out here and try to make their world smooth by doing harm to black people. Now, a big problem with this kind of beta male is that they sit there again in their echo chambers, and they imbibe these ideas, and then they want to go out here and do harm to others out here. And that's what your Peyton Gedron wanted to do, and he was a clear and present danger to others. Unfortunately, many of these people who lived in his neighborhood really took the danger that this white supremacist was for granted. Now, your Peyton Gedron, during the lockdowns when he was in high school, he had already become radicalized and had basically become just like the Islamic terrorists out here. But this white supremacist terrorist, many of the white people didn't really take him seriously and take his threat seriously. Now, before he participated in this mass shooting where he murdered people, he was making plans to go out here and participate in a mass shooting at his own school. And he had made statements about going to participate in this mass shooting, and what happened was they took him in for a 72-hour hold. But there was nothing mentally wrong with a guy like Peyton S. Gedron. No, there's nothing wrong with these kinds of guys. No, these beta males are mentally sane, and the big problem with these beta males is not a mental issue, it's an entitlement issue. No, most of these beta males, they again want their world smooth, and they feel entitled to a world where everything needs to go their way. That is something many in the mental health industry need to understand about the beta male. The beta male is perfectly sane, but the beta male, because he has been spoiled and enabled by either single mothers or beta male parents, like a beta male father, they believe they are entitled to a world that fits their view, and because they believe they are entitled to a world that fits their view, they feel like they have a right to destroy the lives of others because they want the world to be the way they want it to be. So that's what makes these guys perfectly sane, and what further makes these guys perfectly sane is the fact that many of these men know what they're doing beforehand, and they clearly have malice aforethought as related to their behavior. There is no mental issue with these kinds of males. No, these males know what they're going to do. And your Peyton Gedron knew what he was going to do as he was getting radicalized, because he was sitting there studying other mass shooters like Dylan Roof, and he also studied the mass shooter who shot up the church in New Zealand. Again, this male was sitting there studying other mass shooters as he was out here getting ready to make his plans to participate in his own mass shooting, and he clearly was following the racist rhetoric, believing that he was just as justified as the New Zealand mass shooter and Dylan Roof, and he felt that he could also go out here and wage his own war right here in Buffalo, New York. So your beta male Peyton Gedron wanted to go out here and deliberately do harm to others, and he wanted to do harm because he believed that he could go out here and try to make the world smooth by killing black people. So that was his plan because he thought, oh, that there was black people were going to try to replace white people. But when you listen to his whole argument about the whole replacement theory, which had been pushed by Fox News and people like Tucker Carlson, the whole argument, it just completely falls apart. Now your Peyton Gedron alleges that your whites are being replaced deliberately by all of these other races, and he believed that he needed to kill black people to stop the replacement. Now, there's a lot of holes in that whole replacement theory because black people do not control the economics, black people don't control the politics. However, what your Peyton Gedron wanted to do was he wanted to go after the group that was the path of least resistance, and because he saw black people as basically weak, that's why he went after black people. Because he thought, oh, black people won't go out here and carry firearms, they won't shoot back, they won't push back. So that's why he targeted black people. It wasn't about the so-called replacement theory. It basically was all about your Peyton Gedron basically being a coward, and this coward wanted to go out here and do harm to others who he believed would not fight back. It is very similar to what happened with Dylan Roof. Your Dylan Roof, when he went into that church, he knew that those black people had, as Christians, they believed in being passive. So he went in there looking to try to go to those black people because he knew that there was nobody there to push back against him. And that's the same thing here with this cowardly beta male Peyton Gedron, this teenage terrorist. He went to that black community in Buffalo because he thought, oh, these people are not going to push back and they are going to just lay down and die easily. So that's the reason why he targeted that community, and that's the reason why he went to participate in that act of urban terrorism. Now, his whole theory about so-called replacements, again, makes no logical sense because black Americans have been a part of this country since the early inception of it, and we were brought here against our will. And we're not the ones looking to replace anyone. No, if your Peyton Gedron had an issue with so-called replacement by minorities, then maybe he needed to take it up with those rich white people, but he won't do that because most of these beta males, again, are cowards, and because these cowards don't want to confront these rich, wealthy whites, what they do is they use black people to be a scapegoat for their hate crimes. Now, that's basically what this was. Again, it was a hate crime, and the whole thing was this coward wanted to hurt black people because he didn't have the courage to go out here and confront the wealthy whites that he was having issues with as related to the dysfunctional conspiracy theories that he heard from Tucker Carlson on Fox News and that he heard online regularly in platforms like 4chan. This beta male, really, he was sitting there listening to all of this misinformation that he was getting online, believing it to be true, and this is something par for the course for your beta males because your beta males love echo chambers because they reinforce the ideas that they live in their rose-colored reality. And as they're living in their rose-colored reality, they're trying to, again, make their world smooth, and that's what this beta male urban terrorist was trying to do. He wanted to destroy the lives of black people because he wanted to make the world be so-called better for white people. And again, this is not have anything to do with mental illness. No, there is nothing mentally wrong with this beta male. No, this is a spoiled beta male who feels entitled to the world being the way he wants it to be. So, because he believes that the world needs to be the way he wants it to be, he believes he is justified in taking the lives of black people. And sadly, a lot of elderly people in that Buffalo community wound up losing their lives. Grandmothers, mothers, and fathers and uncles. It just was really sad to see all of these black people losing their lives, all because this white supremacist urban terrorist decided to wage war on a black community. And we really need to start using the words race soldier here, because that's what this individual was. He was a race soldier. And this race soldier drove 200 miles to go terrorize black people. And if that doesn't show malice of forethought, I don't know what does. Because no individual, unless they are completely evil, is going to get into a vehicle and drive 200 miles to do harm to others. And that's what this monster, as I see it, did. He decided to get into, after doing years of research, go get into a vehicle, scout out this location, talk to people in the community, and then he did like Dylan Roof, trying to befriend people in the community, and then went out here and looked to do harm to those same people. Again, when I look at your Peyton Gedron, his behavior is no different than Dylan Roof and no different than your Kyle Rittenhouse. We clearly see that there is a pattern to this behavior, and these young people who we thought were going to be less racist are showing us that they are being more white supremacist than their fathers, and they're participating in the racism and white supremacy of their grandfathers. That's what's really disturbing about this whole incident with Peyton Gedron. Here we have an 18-year-old who should be being more understanding about race, but in these echo chambers where he's listening to this white supremacist rhetoric, we see that he has learned the culture of racism and white supremacy of his grandfathers and great-grandfathers, and this race soldier is becoming a new urban terrorist, just like his Ku Klux Klan grandfathers. Now, this Klansman wasn't wearing a white sheet or a white hood. No, this Klansman was wearing military-style tactical gear, and he came to wage a war of terrorism on black people. And I keep using the word war because I need people to understand these kind of individuals are in the middle of a race war, and these individuals see these skirmishes where they participate in these mass shootings as battles. And as they see the body counts on these battles, many of these people who are a part of these white supremacist groups, they go out here and take records of these shootings, and they see them as accomplishments, and they go out here and look to copy each of these killers. So you have to understand where this beta male's mind is coming from, and the beta males who are a part of this echo chamber, these white supremacists see these as battles in a race war, and they're looking to learn so they can, do more harm to black people or anyone that they disagree with. Now, the thing in the media that they're doing now to try to minimize things as related to Peyton Gedrin is they're trying to say that this was an incident where people of color were killed. Well, there were no people of color done harm here. This whole incident was designed about killing black people. And that's something black people really need to understand. This was an incident designed to go after black people, and this coward was looking to target black people who he knew could not fight back. Your Peyton Gedrin did the research on that area, and that was part of his malice of forethought. He was looking to go after black people in this soft target, and he was looking again to go after black people who he knew could not fight back. Most of the black people here who lost their lives were elderly. So this man, willfully and intentionally, again, was looking to go after those who could not fight back. And again, that's why I call this terrorist a coward, because he was looking to strike fear in black America, and he was looking to send a message to black America that he and his ilk were looking to wage war on black America, and he was looking to send that message, and he was looking to try to go out here and again send that message that black lives have no value, and they were going to, in his mind, take the country back. That's the mindset many of these terrorists have, and we need to start calling them what they are, because these are terrorists. Your Peyton Gedrin, as I see it, is a terrorist, because only a terrorist would go to the extreme of driving 3 hours to specifically target a black community and go to a business where black people go do their grocery shopping. Again, this is a hate crime, and it is one that clearly meets the standards for a hate crime, and this whole hate crime is a reason why we need our own hate crime law. Now, I find it interesting that you can have an anti-Asian hate crime law passed by Congress, but this act of anti-black racism does not have an anti-hate crime law to charge this individual. And again, that really shows how our government does not respect foundational black Americans, and the way this story is being covered also really it shows how little respect the media has for foundational black Americans, because they talk about people of color, but this individual specifically went to that venue to kill black Americans. This is about black people, and don't let anybody minimize it. Now, this individual, as he was going to participate in this mass shooting, he went to live stream this event because, again, it was about broadcasting his message to the world about how much he hated black people, and he wanted to send a message to strike fear in black people all across the country. That's why he live streamed this event on Twitch where he participated in this mass shooting, and it's also why he went out here and wrote that manifesto. Now, these white supremacists like this, what they want to do is they want to get attention for themselves, and they also want to get attention for their radical ideas. This is what other mass shooters have done in the past, such as Chung Hee Cho and Elliot Rodger, and that also fits right in line with that pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in The Man Crisis. This mass shooter, he wanted to get as much attention for himself, and he also wanted to get attention for his anti-black agenda, and he wanted to get the word out as related to these other white supremacists so that they could have motivation to participate in more of these violent and terroristic incidents. And again, I keep using the word terrorism because that's what this little 18-year-old twerp is, and he was looking to do harm to black people the same way I believe happened in Kenosha. A lot of these guys, I believe, they go looking to do harm to black people, and this is what's happened with this Peyton Gedron. Again, at this top supermarket, and he was looking to kill as many black people as possible. Now, this whole thing with your Peyton Gedron, it really shines a light on these internet echo chambers that I've seen becoming a serious problem online. Now, when it comes down to these internet echo chambers, they are a place where individuals like your Peyton Gedron get all of this misinformation, and they sit in there listening to this misinformation for extended periods of time. What most people don't understand, that I've done my research on for books like Stop Simping and Cyberspace, is you got guys who will sit there and watch website after website, web page after web page, and they will start reading so much of this information that it becomes like a mantra to them, and they start believing everything that they're reading on these websites. And because there are no other adults or other individuals to vet this information, they take this information for gospel truth. And as these individuals imbibe all of this information that they're reading on these web pages, on these white supremacist websites, on these white supremacist forums on 4chan, or watching these white supremacist YouTube videos, or watching these videos on other platforms like a Rumble or a BitChute, they're sitting there imbibing all of this white supremacist media hour after hour, video after video, website after website, and they get, just like the radical Islamic terrorists, they start getting radicalized into white supremacy, and this is what's happening online. And again, your Peyton Gedron himself said that this is what's happening, and this is a very dangerous thing that's been going on for several years that has led to add fuel to the fire to a lot of these mass shooters. But the reason why these guys go out here and get indoctrinated into that hate is because a lot of times these guys have a foundation in hate in their neighborhood, they have a foundation in hatred in their family, and that foundation gets reinforced by these online forums, and this is what leads to these individuals who are frustrated, angry, simmering, and boiling in rage to get more fuel for their fire until they eventually wind up exploding in a rage that winds up taking the lives of innocent people like those grandmothers, mothers, and brothers and sisters in Buffalo, New York, who were just going about their day looking to go buy some groceries, looking to go get some dinner. Those people didn't do anything to provoke your Peyton Gedron. No, this man was basically twisted from all of the media he had imbibed on these white supremacist platforms. And I also believe he was twisted from before that because he was just one of those, again, these beta males. They live in their own world. They have their sense of entitlement. They believe they are owed a world that they want to have, but these cowards, they don't want to go out here and do what they need to do to build a life. No, they believe they have to tear down the lives of others, and that's what your Peyton Gedron was looking to do, tear down the lives of innocent black people, because he was having issues as related to some ridiculous theory that he read online that makes absolutely no logical sense, and he doesn't have the courage to go out here and confront the rich white people who are actually the ones who control the economy, so he looks to take out his frustrations on black people. And I believe that if he could go out here and again take the lives of black people, he needs to be made an example of, and he needs to be punished to the fullest extent of America's laws. This, again, is not a mental health issue. No, this bitch made coward is not mentally ill. He clearly was of sound mind, and he needs to be punished to the fullest extent of our laws. And I would dare to say that he needs to be charged with federal terrorism laws because he clearly participated in an act of terrorism. Now, it's going to be interesting because Frank James here in New York City was charged with federal terrorism charges. And if our country is in any sort of fairness, we're going to see this Peyton Gedron charged with federal terrorism charges. No, we don't need to see him taking the Burger King like Dylan Roof. We need to see him charged with federal terrorism charges because he participated in an act of domestic terror. And if our country is meant to be fair, we need to see a single standard where this Peyton Gedron is charged with an act of domestic terrorism. Now, your Peyton Gedron is somebody who I believe definitely will be convicted, and I believe that this white supremacist will be on his way to federal prison where he's not going to have to deal with Bubba and Tiny trading him for hot and sour ramen noodles or Kit Kat candy bars. No, they're going to take his ass to the Supermax, and he's going to be spending the rest of his life in the Supermax 30 stories down inside of that concrete room for 23 hours, and that's where this garbage belongs. Now, your Peyton Gedron, again, 18 years old, was filled with hatred for black people, and that hatred he had for black people was something I believe he learned even before he got on the internet, and it was something that he had to have been a part of his life because this person, again, he had to have had this foundation somewhere because these beta males, they have this foundation from an early age. So this had to have been going on for an extended period of time with this male, because to have that kind of hatred that will motivate you to drive 3 hours to Buffalo, that really again shows how depraved indifference this man had for life, and it really showed how deeply dangerous this individual was. Now, there are going to be some who are going to want to go into the gun control argument once again as related to the AR-15 that this individual bought, but that argument falls apart once again like it did in the case of Dylan Roof, the case of Elliot Rodger, the case of Stephen Paddock, and the case of many others, because your Peyton Gedron bought all of his guns legally like all of these other beta males, and that shows that this is not a gun control issue. No, we have an issue with the way these males are being raised, and the way these males are being raised is creating these mass shooters who go out looking to do harm to others. Unfortunately, many in our government, even in the aftermath of an act of domestic terrorism, refuse to acknowledge that we are raising generations of these beta males, and these beta males are no longer ticking time bombs. No, thanks to the COVID-19 lockdowns, these individuals have become landmines, and these landmines are exploding everywhere because as they've been living inside of these echo chambers during the COVID-19 lockdowns, these individuals had their clocks accelerated from extended periods of isolation, and during those periods of isolation, these men got indoctrinated into white supremacy. They got indoctrinated into thinking that they are justified in participating in domestic terrorism. And what's really more terrifying than Peyton Gedron's white supremacist violence is the fact that we have millions of these Peyton Gedrons and millions of these race soldiers out here looking to wage a race war on foundational black Americans. That's something many in government don't want to talk about as related to guys like Peyton Gedron. We have 2 to 3 generations of these beta males out here, and there are millions of these guys out here. These males are landmines, and what is even more terrifying than digesting the fact that there are millions of these guys is the fact that many of these my guys are landmines, and they are not only going off, they're going off at an increased frequency than they did in the past. Now, I have been recording about these mass shootings for several years, and in my early videos I talked about how these individuals were going off and they were going to get worse. And what I've seen over the last year or so is an increase in frequency of these mass shootings, because right after this one with Peyton Gedron, we see another one transpiring in California, and we're seeing more and more of these violent incidents. But our government thinks it's a gun control issue. No, it's a man crisis issue. And the way we have raised males to become men here in America, is creating all of these landmines all across the country. And we are seeing these males go off, and we're seeing our country being driven further and further into a bad place, because one, we don't want to acknowledge the man crisis here in America, and two, we don't want to acknowledge the white supremacist who created the man crisis in this country. We don't want to acknowledge that they created a new crop of these beta male white supremacists, and these beta male white supremacists, because the world isn't going the way they want it to go, they are out here looking to destroy the world around them. That's what your Peyton Gedron was looking to do in the case of that Buffalo black community. He did not like the idea of a thriving black community of working class people being around, and like the terrorist who went out here looking to destroy black towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street, he wanted to destroy the lives of black people by going to that Tops supermarket. And that's where this white supremacist in green tactical gear was the same thing as a Ku Klux Klansman in his white hood. And that's where this beta male was looking to do. Again, he was looking to terrorize black people, and most people, they're sitting there thinking, oh, this is another isolated incident. No, this is not an isolated incident. This is another incident that is right in line with the pattern and profile for beta males America refuses to acknowledge, and America refuses to acknowledge that this man crisis is getting worse in this country. They refuse to acknowledge it because it means taking the female and holding her accountable. It also means holding the government accountable for its policies that broke up the family. And it also means that we have to acknowledge that the way we have raised boys to become men have created monsters. And what's scary is we've got a lot of monsters in this country. And the sad part is most Americans don't know how dangerous things are getting. They're just thinking, oh, it's just crime here in America. No, it's the man crisis, and these males all across this country are looking to go out here and destroy the world because they hate the world and they hate anybody who doesn't fit into their smooth world. So they're looking to destroy the lives of anyone around them. So a lot of people don't really understand how dangerous things are because your Peyton Gedron, he's one white supremacist, but again, there are millions of these guys out here, and it's not a matter of if they go off, it's a matter of when. And most black people, we need to prepare because we're in the middle of a race war, and sadly, a lot of black people, they need to understand that this is just another salvo in the race war, just like Dylan Roof was a salvo in the race war, and you have to be prepared for these type of situations because these race soldiers out here, they have again imbibed a lot of dangerous information, and they are not looking to go out here and befriend black people. They're looking to do harm to us, so we need to find a way to protect ourselves from these dangerous beta males so that we don't become a casualty of war. Now, if you want to learn more about the dysfunctional behaviors of beta males like Peyton Gedron and what motivates them to participate in these horrific acts of mass shootings and urban terrorism, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords, the iBook store, and Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.